Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Alright, let's do this. Let's put this shit to bed. Aiskurgia. We have another text now from a grammarian, from an ancient Greek source. Yes, it's 11th, 12th century, but it's still an ancient Greek grammarian studying ancient Greek sources, talking about Aiskurgian and what the definition is, comparing the words that he's looking at in the ancient lexicon. We're going to take a look exactly what it says. Alright, and then we're going to take a look at other stuff that Luke does, because as I go through this and edit it all again and again, I just see more and more details of what the tactics he was using to gaslight Danny to thinking that Ammon is completely full of shit and saying things that are not true. As you'll see here, I broke it down and I've put enough evidence in this to just put this to bed and just absolutely shut this down. All right, let's go.
I'm saying performing a TLG search on everything that we've got.
Now, this TLG search was in reference to the Christing, but also, they could have done a TLG search for Aiskurgian and this word we were talking about with the holy blowjob and like what it's referencing as a sexual act. They could have done this. They could have put the TLG search up, looked at this as exactly that I'm going to show you what the TLG says about this and the text that we're going to bring up. So they could have done this. They could have sat there, done a TLG search, gone, okay, this means this. Then there's no doubts about it, about what this word means and what this action is, that Luke played around with the semicolon and all that other bullshit that we're going to see.
Why do you think Jesus offers Mary his semen in the greater questions of Mary?
I don't know about that text. Can you bring it up?
So he just said he doesn't know the text. He doesn't know about the text. So he's been a classicist for 20 years and he doesn't know this text, all right? Studies the Bible as well. This is the footing we're starting with this guy, all right? He doesn't know the text.
Have you read Philomenus?
Does it matter?
Being asked by another classicist PhD, have you read another author? Philomenus, have you read this author? Now, this is a classic tactic for someone who is on the back foot and they're saying, does it matter? Does it matter if a classicist has read a source? It does matter, because then we know as the audience, and Ammon knows, well, the person who I'm sitting across from has read this text and they do know the context for what is in this text. Okay? It does matter. Because if you haven't read it, then you don't have the experience and you don't have the context for what is in that text, whatever it is.
What does it matter?
I'm asking
you have to prove me why
read
it matters.
Philomenus?
This is disgraceful. You have to prove to me why it matters that I'm a classicist if I have read an ancient Greek text. Doesn't matter that I've read a text. Good God, this is awful. Awful.
Not most of it. Why does it matter?
So you have no idea what's in Philomenus, correct?
Hey.
Exactly. So if you haven't read it, or like you said, you haven't read most of it, then you're not going to know the whole context of the text and the author, are you? You're not going to know that. Okay? You don't have the experience with it.
I can
so
show you.
So you can mystically see things that nobody else, even me, cannot see.
No, I'm showing you what experience does.
Oh, so 20 years not enough.
Clearly it's not enough, because you haven't read these texts. You just said that a text we're pulling up from Epiphanius. Have you read the Greater Questions of Mary? No, you haven't read that text. Have you read Philomenus? Not all of it. So no, you don't know all this text and all this author. So it does matter that you don't know it and that you don't have the experience.
Am I going to learn this in year 30?
If it takes you another 10 years to fucking read this stuff, yeah. You're going to learn it in year 30 or 32, what you're going to say. If it takes you another 10 to 12 years to read these sources, yes, then that's when you will learn it. If you haven't read them yet, even after 20 years, then no, you don't have the experience. So that does fucking matter.
32? When am I going to get to this?
When you read the text, okay? We already saw. Let's take a look again. What's the base we're working off from this guy?
I don't know about that text. Can you bring it up? Why does it matter?
I'm asking
you. Have to prove me why
read
it matters.
Philomenus?
We don't know. We don't even know. Let's back up and talk about methodology again. What we're dealing with usually is probabilities. Anything we do is guessing. For the 1,000th time, we're guessing about everything. Everything is speculation. We don't know anything for sure.
This was a compilation of all the stuff he said throughout the whole podcast about different things. We don't know anything. Everything's speculation. We know nothing. We don't know anything for sure. This guy, the worst fucking representative you could have as a classicist on this show. Total speculator. And the worst thing is he's going to go on to claim that Ammon's speculating when we've already seen the sources and all read it together and seen exactly what it says. Classic gaslighting. Watch what's coming.
What the Christian author here is saying is this is what these people
he's reporting.
believe.
Yeah, he's reporting.
He's reporting it.
And he's Orthodox, so he doesn't agree with it.
He's not
this
Christian?
section,
Okay.
he is a Christian. And in this section, he's talking about Aiskurgia, which is fellatio. And
Why
he
do you think
says
that's fellatio?
right up here, watch.
Why do you think it's fellatio? Well, maybe because he's read text that you haven't read and he has experience with Greek that you don't have. Even after 20 years. Yeah, maybe it'll take you another 10, 12 years to fucking read this stuff if he wasn't there. And we'll see, even though that you did read it, You completely dismissed everything that was happening, and you just went on to claim that Ammon was speculating about everything, when we're going to look at the exact text right now, and he's going to say what it says. And it says, aiskrugian. That's what's happening in this text. And then we looked at this in a previous video. This is what they bring up. Aiskrotes. Because he asked him, what's an aiskrotes? Yeah, he knows. You showed me. So it means ugliness, deformity, or filthy conduct. And as I've shown before, the Victorians were awful at this because of the time they were living in. So they didn't want to reference sexual acts, and they did it under the guise of a euphemism for fellatio with Latin, okay? So that's what it says here. And then went into the whole semicolon stuff, which I've already done a video on, which we don't need to because one of the older lexicons from the 1890s, I believe, obscenity, euphemism for fellatio, and it doesn't have the semicolon, it's just a comma. And then right below it is the verb, and it says to act obscenely and to masturbare, okay? The Latin. We're talking about sex and sexual acts. So this is the context we're talking about, which is going to get important for what's going to come up.
They said that he began oxamenon to do what to her? To inkatamignusstai. Now, mignomy is involving the fluids once again.
Oftentimes it means sex.
There we go. Oftentimes it means sex, and they're mixing body fluids. Luke even acknowledged this, okay? He's acknowledged the reality and the facts right now. Or so we thought. Oftentimes it means sex.
But mignomy means to mix the fluids.
Literally, yeah.
When you put kata, it has a sense of consumption, somebody consuming. This thing is being consumed, and it can also mean wasted, positionally down.
Okay, so you heard the explanation there. This one right here, enkata, and it's cut off, mignusai. That is being consumed. Someone is consuming the fluids, positionally down. In, down. So that's the context we're looking at right now.
In, positionally within. This is referencing fellatio.
Are we pulling a Dick Nixon by saying that this means fellatio? Oftentimes it means sex, and it's up to you. You're the one who has to kind of build your case.
Okay, so let's build that case now. Are we pulling a Dick Nixon? So saying, oh, this sounds like this, so it could be that. But we don't know. Well, actually, here's another grammarian from the 11th, 12th century saying aiskrugein is glottodepsein. And now, what is glottodepsein? Well, this is the text first. Glottodepsein aiskrugein, and I'll blow it up for you. Glottodepsein aiskrugein. There it is, right there. So what is glottodepsein? In the lexicon we have now, oh, look at that. They've hit it behind the Latin again. These fucking Victorians. Fellare. Okay? What's fellare? And let's pull up the AI, because that's the way we do things these days. Fellare is the Latin root for the English word fellate, which means to provide sexual pleasure through oral stimulation. There we go. Do we need any more evidence? No, but I'm going to give you more anyway. Essentially meaning to, here we go, in a sexual context, derived from the Latin, it refers to the act of giving oral sex. So how do we know that's fellatio? You said, Luke? Well, it says it right here in an ancient Greek grammarian. So that's two sources now we have. We have the ancient Greek lexicon, the LSJ, which is saying it's a euphemism for fellatio, and we also have 11th, 12th century ancient Greek grammarian looking at ancient Greek texts saying glottodepsein is aiskrugein. And what is it? It is fellatio, which is exactly what we're talking about, Luke, in this Epiphanius text. And then I even brought up an untranslated text on the Perseus Tufts website where I went through it myself. You can see that video, but I'll just do a little quick recap where this is what it's referencing in this untranslated Lucian text, talking about aiskrugian. You can see it over here. This is what it says. Aiskrugian, meaning to put someone's rod into a neoneus, a boy's neck, throat, mouth area, causing them to swallow something. And it's talking about being in a sexual, desirable state. So now we have the ancient Greek lexicon saying fellatio, euphemism. And then we have an ancient Greek grammarian saying aiskrugian is glottodepseo, which is fellare, okay? Which is, we just saw it, fellatio. So we know it is. Luke, later in the podcast, just straight up gaslights for Danny, and Ammon knows what's going on. I can see what's going on too. Hopefully most of the audience can see what's going on. But unfortunately for Danny, in this case, he didn't see what was going on. And Luke ran rings around him with this whole bullshit narrative that he was saying, Ammon's speculating. Okay, we all just saw the text for ourselves. Everyone saw the text. We all saw the context. Okay, now he's going to say this.
We've already noticed that a lot of what you do is speculation.
No, give me an example.
Yes, we've already talked about this. The fellatio, pure speculation.
No, it said it was a euphemism. It said it's a euphemism. I didn't say that. But mignomy means to mix the fluids.
Literally, yeah. Oftentimes it means sex.
You already acknowledged that this context and this source says mix fluids in a sexual manner. And then you're saying it's speculation. You are 100% lying right now. gaslighting. Do you show it again? Iskorotes, euphemism for fellatio. Old Lexicon, euphemism for fellatio. Ancient Greek lexicographer, grammarian. Glottodepsane, iskorogain. Okay, the same thing we're talking about. And it says fellare. Fellare is the Latin root for the English word fellate. Sexual pleasure through oral stimulation. It means it right there. So this proves that you don't have the experience, or you don't have the experience, and on top of that, you're lying and gaslighting. We'll need another 10 years for you to catch up, Luke, to read these texts, okay? In year 30 of learning Greek.
When you speculate that that's what that word means in that context, it's pure speculation.
Look at the eyes on this too. Good God. Condescending. We just looked at the context and you just admitted the context was sexual and mixing body fluids, okay? We all saw the context and now he's trying to gaslight the fuck out of you to say you're speculating. No, we all saw it. Stop lying.
Contextually, though, he's been talking about semen eaters, so...
Context matters.
Good, context matters. And he just told you the context. Epiphanius is talking about people eating semen. We know what you're doing. You're gaslighting.
Speculate that that's what that word means in that context is pure speculation. Context matters. We can go to Vegas and put odds on it, but you don't know that. We've already covered that ground. You don't know that.
He took the off runnings, his own off runnings.
It could be
his effluescence, right?
Yeah, sure. It's vague though.
Right. It could be, except contextually though, he's been talking about semen eaters. So
context matters,
right?
But then you got to build a case.
Spermatophages, right? He's been talking about it.
You just said context matters. And you know the context. He's been talking about people eating semen, okay? How many times do we need to see the evidence? We know what it says. You know what it says. And now you're just lying.
This passage goes on to explain what the people who were eating the semen believed about why he was doing this.
Okay.
Look at him. He looks absolutely uncomfortable in this. He doesn't want to be talking about this at all. See that facial expression?
Use a half a dozen verses from the New Testament. What is he doing? He's making her eat something like the Ophites that Epiphanius has already talked about, who are eating the semen. When
you
it
don't
says
know that.
the thumb is in his hand.
You don't know that.
You don't think?
See right there, Ammon's saying, hey, we just looked at the text. When he says that his off-runnings are in his hand, what are you talking about? We just looked at the text. And you're saying Ammon's speculating. Like, this is total gaslighting. It's like, we all just looked at the text. What are you doing? This reminds me of a scene from a movie called A Guide for the Married Man, where his wife walks in on him with another woman and just gaslights the fuck out of her. Watch this shit.
What are you doing?
Where?
There, with her.
Who?
Her. How could you?
What?
When you speculate that that's what that word means in that context, it's pure speculation.
When I came in, you and she would...
Who?
You know very well who, that woman there.
Where?
But you don't know that. We've already covered that ground. You don't know that.
Charlie!
What?
You and that woman!
What woman?
Thumb is in his hand.
You don't know that.
You don't think?
Okay.
But Charlie,
What?
aren't you even ashamed of yourself?
Why?
When
You
it
don't
says
know that.
the thumb is in his hand.
You don't know that.
You don't think?
Okay. Another
See?
thing.
Something's wrong. There's
something
a wall
is wrong,
here.
Ammon.
There's a
Something
wall
is wrong,
here.
Ammon.
Aren't you even ashamed of yourself?
See, look at Ammon's reaction. He's like, when he says that it's in his hand, and we've just looked at the text, what the hell are you talking about? What's going on? He looks at Danny, he's like, do you see this shit happening right now? He's gaslighting the fuck out of us. What the hell? He's saying, Ammon's speculating with the text that they all just read, and they all just looked at the definitions, okay? Look how, this is so bad. Think of the analogy. Danny walks in the room, and you got Luke and the text sitting there. And Danny's like, so what does the text say? And Luke's like, what text? We didn't know any text. It's just speculation. There's nothing here. What are you talking about? That's exactly what just happened.
Another thing.
Something's wrong.
Something is wrong because we all just saw it. Gaslighting.
Something is wrong, Ammon. Something is wrong, Ammon.
And then you get classic projection after that to try and push it back onto Ammon to make Danny think that Ammon's the one that's fucking lying. This dude's actions are unbelievable. To literally hide what you just seen in front of your eyes. We all saw it. And this dude is hiding it as much as he can. And lying to you right in your face, lying to everyone, just hoping that no one realizes. But I realize, Ammon realizes, a lot of us fucking realize what he just done. Okay? You looked at all the text, you looked at all the evidence, we can all see it, and you're still sitting there as if it doesn't exist. Gaslighting.
Aren't you even ashamed of yourself?
Yeah, aren't you ashamed of yourself? No, these people have no shame. They're trying to protect the narrative because if the whole house of cards falls, then all their jobs are gone and all their credibility is absolutely shot to shit. And already it is right now because I've just shown we have texts that say this means what this means. sexually, and you even admitted it's a sexual act, mixing fluids, okay? And we have multiple sources now saying it means fellatio. Now, this bit is something else that I want to bring up, that he's talking about vowels in Greek, and he's saying you can't interchange them. I'm like, well, that's not true, because look at the lexicon, and I'll show you. So this is a straight up lie.
Vowels are very important in Greek. You can't just substitute them in and out.
Now, this is ialamos, and you can see that in a different dialect, in Ionian, right next to it, it's iel, which is iota eta lambda, not iota alpha lambda. So it can change depending on what dialect you're using. So Luke right there just made shit up, because it's ia and ie. Okay, it's very similar, but you can change the vowels depending on the dialect. Right here, it says it in the lexicon. As we see, iaomai, which is the verb to heal and cure. And you see it here, it also has iesomai. So you can use the eta instead of the alpha. Iesamein, iasomai. So you can use the alpha or the eta. So you can use a different vowel.
But let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, they're mispronouncing it. Okay, whatever.
I'm not going to say that. Stop putting arguments in my mouth. That's disingenuous.
You are
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Bring you an apocryphal text that uses Ionic.
Bring it on. He said, bring it on. All right, very dangerous, Luke. Bring it on. Because what does it say?
This is Ionic right next to eternal, Idios.
So you have ion and ideon, the two different forms of eternal, okay, in ancient Greek. Now, why would it be eternal and eternal? They wouldn't do that, because ionic means something else.
Okay.
And you will see the difference, but you haven't, because you are trusting in Jesus.
Because he was trying to protect the narrative of Jesus, as we saw in other videos you can go check out on my channel. Idios means everlasting, eternal. And then in the lexicon as well, ionios means lasting for an age, perpetual, or like idios, everlasting, eternal. Now, when we go and look at what the actual God is and its roles in society, in the cults and the religious rites, let's take a look what it says. So it says ion or ion, but see, they do change the vowels, ion or aeon. Even on the AI, they have changed the vowels. Ion is a Hellenistic deity representing eternal, cyclical time, unbounded existence, or cosmic cycles. In Roman mystery cults, Mithraism is a powerful lion-headed god of cosmic rebirth. Now we see this rebirth. So it's cyclical time, what we're talking about. And it's distinctly different from Chronos's linear time. So that's linear time compared to cyclical time. That's how we see time in this case. Now the key aspects, it says cyclical time. Unlike Chronos, Ion governs the eternal repeating cycles, seasons, and the cosmos, where endings lead to new beginnings. So when you think of eternal, you're thinking linear timeline. Eternally, but that's not how it works. It's cyclical, so things happen and then they die off and then they come back. So it's like a cycle of rebirth, and we'll show you that, because look, it says eternity and renewal. He personifies unending existence, often depicted with a serpent, symbol of renewal, and the zodiac. And then we'll get into mystery cults. Ion was central to mystery religions like Mithraism as the lion-headed god, and Orphism, focusing on afterlife, rebirth, and spiritual awakening. Romans adopted Ion, equating him with eternitas, or eternity. So the Romans equated him with eternity. But the mystery cults in Mithraism were talking about afterlife, rebirth, and spiritual awakening. And if you know anything about the cults, it's about life, death, and rebirth. And in essence, Ion is the divine embodiment of forever, the concept that existence itself is an endless, self-renewing process. That's the difference between Ion, Ionic, and eternal. Cycles of life, death, and rebirth. And it's focusing on afterlife, rebirth, and spiritual awakening in these mystery cults that we're talking about.
You are trusting in Jesus.
What are you talking about?
You are trusting in that text.
Ammon interrupted me when I was trying to talk about this.
When
you
it
don't
says
know that.
the comma's in his hand.
You don't know that.
You don't think.
Okay.
Oh my God, am I stoned?
Exactly. That's how I feel. What the hell is going on? Oh my God. So that's what we just saw. We saw all the evidence there that Luke even saw and acknowledged. It means to mix the fluids of the body, and it's talking about consuming fluids. And we've just seen now twice with the lexicon and a grammarian talking about, hey, this means fellatio. So yes, it does mean fellatio. Even after he got shown in this podcast, hey, this is what it says and here's the evidence, he's still sitting there claiming that Ammon is speculating about this when all of us have seen the evidence. That is gaslighting, and that is projection in what he's done and what I've shown you here. And we're not falling for it anymore. Get these people the fuck out of here. This is not science. This is not looking at the text, which we should have done. And they could have done this, and then they would have found all this out on the show. And then we wouldn't have any of this obscuring of the text and of history and of the podcast, like right in front of us. Absolute gaslighter. This dude, you bring up sources and evidence right in front of his face, and then a few minutes later, he turns around and tells you and the person you're sitting with that you're speculating when we've just looked at evidence for ourselves. This is not science. This is not academia, or not what it should be. And this is what this guy's presented, and it's absolutely disgusting. And this guy should not be around history at all. I wouldn't trust this man with teaching me anything about ancient Greek or history if you're going to pull stunts like this and sit there with the evidence right in front of you and then claim the person who has just shown you the evidence that you didn't even know about because you said you hadn't read the text, to claim the person who just gave you the evidence and has more experience than you is speculating when you're the one that all you said was...
We don't even know. Let's back up and talk about methodology again. What we're dealing with usually is probabilities. Anything we do is guessing. For the 1,000th time, we're guessing about everything. Everything is speculation. We don't know anything for sure.
Claim everything's speculation. We don't know anything, even when we just sat there and looked at the evidence. And then gaslights you and Danny to say, hey, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe the evidence we just looked at. Get away from the evidence. Let's go back to methodology and everything's speculation. So Ammon's reaction at the end here is completely warranted because we've just seen all the text. We've just seen all the evidence. And then Luke is still sitting there gaslighting and saying everything's speculation, or you're speculating on all the evidence we've just seen. So he's trying to hide the evidence when we've all just seen it. Okay? This is why it's so frustrating and so hard to watch, because it's so plainly obvious. It's kind of like To Kill a Mockingbird. It's so plainly obvious that it's like, I shouldn't have to point this out. But I do, because a lot of people still believe this shit.
When
you
it
don't
says
know that.
the comma's in his hand.
You don't know that.
You don't think.
Okay.
Oh my God, am I stoned?